Hello, welcome to another Tonal Landscape oil painting demonstration. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy, and the painting I'm bringing you today is called The Quiet Path 5x7. Painted this, was it yesterday before yesterday, and I'm really happy with it, really stoked with it. I wish I'd painted it bigger. I've been doing a lot of 8x10s lately. It's still 5x7. It came out just great. And, you got to sell the 8x10s for a bit more. That's just so you've got to use something as a criteria for why one painting will cost more than another. That could be time or size, or both. Anyway, it's a beautiful painting, and in essence, it's really a bit of a riff on an Inness. I have to say, we got miles away from where George was in his painting, but there's a bit of the soul of his work in this, and so I'll be giving him his due, like I just did, and in the description as well. So, the two trees with the path. Now, in the reference, which you can check out that reference image in the members area. I know I did see a comment which somebody put up and then they deleted. They were feeling maybe a little shy or whatever, but I know you guys would love to see the reference, and that's why I put it in the reference area, the members area, the reference area. But they actually attached to the members area is a reference area in a sense, because each members area post comes with a link to the blog where you can see the reference image. You can see the palette and a blow-by-blow transcription. Yeah, not so much blow-by-blow, but a summarized transcription of the painting session. So, check that out if you're really interested in getting a little more in depth with old Uncle Mike here. That's the way to do it. And the thing is, I know we're all tight, but it's a good way to support the channel, as is buying the book and stuff. Speaking of, we're going to get to the book advertisement in a minute. The price is going up on the book. It's going up to $65. I'll let it run for another week right now at $60, just for anyone getting the memo a little bit late. Yeah, the shipping did go up. That guy was right. And my margin is just so tight. I don't really even make I don't really want to do the math, but I make very little, and that's okay with me. I don't need to make a lot on it. I'm actually quite happy to get out in the world and not take a loss, but I'm not going to actually take too big of a loss. So anyway, heads up there, going to 65, and we'll talk about that some more when we get to that. We are working on a nice bit of hardboard. No, MDF. Yes, a very thin MDF actually, which I kind of favor in these smaller sizes, and using good old burr number. What am I flashing up there? Well, we're getting into mixing some colors and things coming up, and my tube of Cad Yellow just got very dry. All the oil seeped out of it ages ago, and it's just so expensive. What I've been doing is I tried a bunch of different things. Actually, I tried just mixing it with some linseed oil, and that was kind of okay, except it made it too transparent. So lately my solution is to mix it with a little bit of Hansa Yellow, which is acrylide yellow, and that's been working great. So there's a little tip for you. If you got a dry tube of paint, you can mix it with something that's not as dry. In this case, Hansa Yellow is kind of like Cad Yellow, except it's more transparent. Yeah. Anyway, working with the old burr number on the drawing there. Really love the way the drawing came out. Obviously, there's a lot of differences from the original inspiration from George, but what he had was like one big tree, some trees off the side. He had no path that I know of. Maybe it was a little tiny path, no destination, and that's a thing I really like to have if I can. A bit of a place to go, like I'm the king of the distant lake and the path, and I'm happy with that. And you could say, well, you'd be working the cliches, and obviously I'm working the cliches, but I'm doing it in the spirit of an artist who's expressing themselves. And there's a reason why cliches are what they are. They're powerful metaphors that you can use as part of your artistic language to express yourself. So don't think you're creating anything original. Nobody has for quite a while. I mean, painting was reinvented in the 1800s and then basically destroyed a bit and then built up again in the 20th century. And there is nothing new being done. There's nothing new about anything I'm doing here, except for I wasn't even painting in the 20th century. I didn't start painting until this century, and it's me painting, and that's always going to be new. That's always going to be fresh and a bit of a revelation, right? Um, so don't let anything like a cliche stop you. I used to avoid painting things like paths or sunsets because I thought, oh God, there were so many horrible sunset paintings around when I came up. Ah, we have here an ad for the book. The book is going up to 65. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna do it next Sunday though. So just putting the word out there, and that's $5 more, U.S. And that $5 more is about going to be what I make on it. So that's great. At least pays for the gas to get to the post office, and contains 13 years of accumulated knowledge, all built up trying to work in a tonalist manner, and I wrote a book about it. I'm also working on another book right now, which I won't say too much about because it's going to be a while before you can buy that, but that'll be available in a couple different versions, and it's expansive. It's way more in depth than the Landscape Painting the Toneless Way. The Landscape Painting the Toneless Way is very much patterned off of these how-to sort of books that were around when I was coming up, like Kevin McPherson's books, and it won't be replaced by the thing I'm writing now. The thing I'm writing now is more a work of text, a series of essays, you might say. Anyway, enough of that. So we're coming in with our darks, and one of my briefs on this is like I wanted to hold back from the blackest of the black. I know my paintings tend to go very dark. So, and I think my video did a good job of capturing that. I've been getting more adept at getting a good result with my camera, which is something that you wouldn't want to care about, except that I'm sure you appreciate when things look clear and you can see what's actually happening. And these colors are quite correct, quite accurate. The value structure is good. The one thing is it's always going to be a little more light on the top than in the photography than it was to me in real life, and this is because of my lighting coming from above. But I use just one big light from above. I did used to use two lights coming in from each side. They're both fine. You know, this light from above is probably the better of the two, I would say. But the main thing is to make sure you have plenty of light so you can see what you're doing. Yeah. And of course I adjust for all that with my camera and stuff. So the other memo here is the same as the last several I put up on the channel. Is I am attempting to work a lot quicker, and you might say, well, geez, Mike, you've always been working quick. Yeah, but I don't want to go over strokes as much. I want to just leave things. I'm more content to leave more of the board coming through. More of the dark or semi-darks coming into the drawing area. So a lot of that drawing coming through, and then bringing in the greens and other things. And I think this painting was incredibly successful in that regard. And if I don't say so myself. Also, the thing I'm doing here, the real challenge with this kind of scene, of course, is the foliage over the sky. So one of the big distinctions from what I've been doing in the past is I couldn't help in the past but try and define that, and I would try and define it artfully. But here I'm not actually defining much in that drawing stage. It starts getting somewhat defined when the sky comes in, and then the rest of it when the foliage comes in. All of it, the sky fairly loose, the foliage fairly loose, and the underpainting fairly loose. And this is very much inspired by people like Camille Corot, who would keep his stuff doesn't look that loose, but when you look at the transition areas of foliage over the sky, which is one of the toughest things to paint, and it's especially tough in this sort of circumstance where we're in a kind of shadowy space and it's light on the other side. So anything against that light tends to take on a bit of an edgy quality, And it's taken me years to get this adept at dealing with it. Now I've dealt with it successfully. I've done paintings I thought were good, but I think I'm doing a way better job of it now since I've kind of started taking this more loose approach where I'm trying not to over-define things at any point in the process, because the definition should come about as a result of the painting process itself. More so than you saying, well, this is going to be black or white, this is going to be on or off, this is going to be light or dark. You can hold off on that and then just deal with it with the gradations of paint. And another thing I've been doing with the brush, which is very hard to, I've never seen it outlined in books. I have tried very, very earnestly to touch on it in the new book I've been writing, is your approach to brushwork as you're painting. But we've got, we've lost most of the only semi-interested people, so let's just talk about that internal state for a minute, because maybe I can give you some insight. So as you're painting along, you have several different things going on with the brush. You have the shape of the brush, and that is very much influenced by how much you clean your brushes, which I won't get into, but make sure you clean them well. Yeah, and there's instructions here and in my last book about that, and a whole, maybe not a whole chapter about it in the new book, but just clean them good so you keep that spring. Some brushes, like I'm using filberts on this. The filberts are great because they have a little toe at the end, which is like one size brush. They have like a little almost bevel edge, which is another size brush. You've got the flat end, and you can press down and the whole thing becomes kind of a larger brush. So that's my approach there. But that's just the brush size. Then you have the amount of paint in your brush and the relative viscosity of the paint. So that's where the medium comes in, and that's something that's always very strategic to me. And quite often I might initially, especially in the early stages of the painting, I might have a little too much oil in the paint, mostly because I'm getting the oil into the mix. But if that's the case, sometimes I will have got my brush in the palette loaded with paint and then had to wipe it off and basically just thrown that paint away. So you have the shape and size of the brush, you have the amount of paint in the brush, and then you have pressure, brush pressure. Now, so much of that, say every stroke I'm laying down is also, it's got those two main factors, the size and the viscosity, but the main thing that's being sort of changed all the time is, we have direction as well. We'll just take them one at a time. Let's just talk about brush pressure and then we'll get into brush direction. And now that brush pressure is directly related to your sense of how much paint is in the brush, and that's one reason why I'm always harping about getting a lot of experience as a painter, even if you end up making paintings that aren't great, or you're just making paintings that are copies after other artists. It's valuable because you're learning that. You're learning what your brush will do with different amounts of paint. And then the last aspect, we'll talk about directions. So sometimes I'm holding the end of the brush, sometimes the middle of the brush, sometimes I'm holding it somewhat like a pencil. You can see all the different ways that I'm holding the brush here, and each one combined with the pressure, the direction with the pressure, with the shape of the brush and the viscosity of the paint will determine the sorts of strokes that are coming down. And then of course you have frequency of strokes. Okay, so you have the amount of pressure, you have the direction of the strokes, and then how many strokes you're putting down. So one thing I've been trying to do here is leave things alone. Now that's been an ongoing process for me for my whole painting career, and it's just getting more and more extensive to the point where I may end up like George Inness doing these super loose, you can barely tell what it is kind of paintings because I'm so into the abstract quality of it all. But we'll see. I think for me, it's I want you to be able to see what it is. I want you to get the emotive quality, and things like using your brush in an appropriate way are all going to help you express yourself. So hopefully I give you some insight into that process. And until I come back with another video for your, hopefully for your edification and enjoyment, do me a favor, do me a solid, take good care of yourself, your family, all your loved ones. Stay out of trouble. God bless you and your family, and fight the power.